Hello, welcome to my channel once again. Today I am in conversation with another author. It's Jemahl Evans. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a decade. So I used to write comedy and he writes humorous historical fiction. Like this one, The Charioteer, his newest book. We talk about that a bit. We talk a little bit about his writing process, and we mostly just chinwag about this and that. And here it is. Enjoy. Hello. I think your microphone is...
Hello.
I decided to go with the comedy sunglasses. I was going to try and be intelligent, but I didn't have anything.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Oh, that's all right then. That's all right. I can stick that.
It's a little bit quiet, but I can... That might...
I can turn the game up, I think. How's that?
Yeah, that's good.
There you go.
Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And actually, I'll turn you down a bit. And how are you feeling? You've had COVID, a 24-hour marathon,
I know.
24-hour marathon, well, writing session.
Writing session, yeah. All of the COVID symptoms are gone. All the cold symptoms are gone. But the fatigue is still killing me. Like, I don't have a particularly hard job, but like, I get in from work at midday and I need to sleep for about 3 hours. In fact, I'm having a Dr. Pepper now just to try and keep me awake.
How about Rachel? Because obviously,
She's slightly the same as me, only she's lost her taste and smell as well. So I feel a bit sorry for her.
yeah.
Yeah, you've not had it, have you? You've managed to avoid it.
Oh, it's been hell. Yeah, I've been locked down. My mum's living with me, so she's
Oh,
got,
right, yeah.
so it's been locking her completely down, really. So it's I've hardly been anywhere. It's been my
Oh,
guitar playing's got a lot better, but my writing, you'd have thought I'd have written those during the lockdowns, but no. So far, touch wood,
yeah.
I'm quadruply jabbed. She's quadruply jabbed, and we've so far managed to survive it.
That's good. But you found your writing has slowed down during COVID.
It's picked up again now, but yeah, during the lockdown,
Couldn't get your head into it.
it was like getting blood from a stone. Yeah. I mean, I could never do a 24-hour. Well, I could probably do a 24-hour marathon session.
Yeah.
I thought I would get that much done, or I might get 10,000 words done in a 24-hour session.
Yeah. I mean, on average, I probably write about 600 to 1,000 words a day, and that's sort of my normal. And some
Yeah.
days it's only 200. So, yeah, writing 25,000 words in a day, I didn't think that was possible. If you had asked me that, when I first started writing, my first ever novel was 10,000 words long, and it took me over a year to write. That was the first thing I ever tried to write.
Did you put that up on Autonomy?
No, it was just before that. It was probably a couple of years before that. That was a
Okay.
book. That was a story called "The Journals of Mr. Cabbles," and it was about it was like it was a cross between like Douglas Adams. Did you ever read the Robin Cooper letters, the Time Waster letters?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was written as in the form of a diary, like his Time Waster diaries. But it was about a cat in space. It was utterly terrible.
I think all of our first efforts as writers are always terrible.
Yeah.
That's I started writing a fantasy thing
Oh yeah.
back in 2003 that I found going to the attic the other day, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, and put it away again. I thought, oh yeah, some nice ideas there. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Oh, the worst thing I thought that all of those books, because back, this is before we met on Aphonomy, and I was playing around on Lulu, which was like a self-publishing platform, and I just
Yeah.
put a few short stories on there, and like one of them, one was called Her Royal Madness, and it was about a 4,000 word story that I printed as a little thin paperback. It was terrible, right? But I was publishing it because I was just playing with the platform. But I thought nobody knew about those books because now I'm trying to be a serious author. I don't want anybody to know about it. So I jokingly mentioned it in a Facebook post. And one of my friends found it still for sale on Lulu. I had no idea it was for sale, so we bought every one.
Nothing ever disappears. I mean, there's early drafts of Roundhead out there on. I mean, you can find them on the Wayback Machine, I think, and
Ollie.
Write On. Did you ever use You Write On when you started writing? That was one of my favorite sort of review sites.
I used Wattpad.
I use Wattpad, not very much.
Yeah, I think I put a few chapters of The Accidental Scoundrel on there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I read that on Autonomy.
I think you did. Should we introduce people to you? And I assume people might be watching this. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jemahl Evans. He used to write comedy. I don't know if you still write comedy.
Yeah, I think all of my books are humorous.
Yeah,
The candy ones are tragic comedy, or dramedy, or whatever they're called. But they're very humorous.
Yeah.
And my latest, The Charioteer, is sort of it's got that humor in it.
Yeah.
My Tom Beckett book, not so much, but that's about a man getting his head chopped off. So that's. I mean, I try, and that's The Charioteer. Yes. Oh well done.
That's The Charioteer. I haven't read it yet. I'll be honest. I got this about a day before I got COVID, and I haven't been able to read anything. So I was hoping to have it read by the time we spoke.
The fact you've got it in paperback is quite impressive. I'll have to sign it to if I ever get down to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I spent a lot of my summers as a child in Bournemouth because my aunt used to own a guest house.
Oh yeah.
Called Many Waters, which is now it's been knocked down now, and it's a library. So
right.
I used to stay a lot in Branksome Chine.
Oh yeah.
And then they moved down to Poole, and so we'd still go and spend some time with them in Poole.
I've been in Bournemouth my whole life and I've never left, and I kind of feel a bit ashamed about it sometimes. All my friends have moved away to more interesting places like Manchester and London and Edinburgh. I stay down here with the old ladies.
It's funny. I live in a little village.
Yeah.
Little village, and all I wanted until the age of 18 was to get out of this little village.
Yeah.
My family have lived here for generations, so there's lots of cousins and aunts and uncles who even today are still floating around. Until the age of 40, I lived all over the world. I lived in London, Sydney, travelled, did what I wanted. And at 40, I just wanted to come home. So, what happened, I suppose.
Yeah, I was walking through. You kind of like you stop seeing the place where you live, don't you? And like you stop seeing it as a tourist. But since I've been with Rachel, who's from Manchester, I've started to see it more as an outsider. And actually, I've been writing horror for a while, but I've just returned to comedy as a side project. I've just started writing some books set in Bournemouth, and I'm not being shy about the humour. Like I kind of got a bit this. I don't know what the word is.
Dark.
Yeah, well, I've got dark. Yeah.
Dark and frightening.
Yeah.
Those are the words I would use.
Oh, right. You read Jack's Game,
Yeah,
didn't you?
I read Jack's Game, yeah.
And the book.
You know how much I hate horror. I'm not a horror fan. I'm not a horror fan. But I read that book. It gave me nightmares.
But that book is a lot better because you read it, because you said get rid of the prologue and put chapters 1 and 2 together. And I did that, and it is a lot better for it.
You think?
Yeah.
That's good. Maybe I'm a better editor than I am a writer.
No, I remember reading The Last Roundhead back in the Autonomy days, and it is that I remember that being a brilliant book. I remember a lot of I seem to remember Blanding's Candy wetting himself on a battlefield. Yeah. And I think there might have been an instance with a pig and its bottom. Was it a pig?
There's certainly a pig scene in there where they all end up
felt dirty.
Poaching a pig, or stealing a pig from a farmer.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was it.
Very badly for them. But Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always look for the punchline, and
Yeah,
I find that difficult when I did try and write something serious like Thomas Becket, which did pretty well. I mean, it sold.
yeah,
Um, I struggled not to write a fart joke, you know.
yeah.
And you're writing, well, it just doesn't work in this situation. So going back to the Charioteer, I was quite happy. I could put a character in who fulfilled all my comic tendencies as well as the serious characters around it as well. So I think
Okay.
that's what I enjoyed.
So
But yeah, a lot.
you got to have a bit of comedy in there, even with the serious stuff. There's got to be some humor in there, isn't there?
I think, I mean, I think even on autonomy, I think or comedy is a little bit looked down upon as not very serious, which is, well, it isn't serious.
It wasn't serious for us, for any of us, because we're all in the comedy gang.
Well, comedy, and for us, we were all having a laugh. But in the wider world, I think comedy writing is looked down upon a little bit by, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, you go into a bookshop and there isn't a comedy section.
No,
You can't find the comedy. I mean, Douglas Adams is in sci-fi. Terry Pratchett's in the fantasy section. P.G. Wodehouse is just in fiction. You can't. Where is it? Where is the comedy?
yeah, exactly. I mean, historical fiction is what I
Mm.
write, but I write humorous historical fiction. And yeah, I think that's so that it becomes a sort of a niche,
It
which
does. Yeah, there's
sometimes
no way to browse comedy easily.
no, not
No,
at all. Oh, there's no. I don't think Amazon have got a comedy. Have they got a comedy section?
no. If you go into a bookshop that has a humor section, it tends to be like joke books and Clarkson books. You know, Top
Yeah,
Gear manuals.
which I tend not to find that funny.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know.
I suppose then you are getting into the word comedy is subjective, but you know,
Fart jokes. Everybody finds farts funny, though, don't they?
everybody finds a guy getting kicked in the nuts funny. But I think if it's done right, you know, as long as I had this argument with my sister the other day, and I said, as long as the comedy is always punching up,
Uh-huh.
then I think it's great.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Going back to autonomy, the comedy writers who were on there, I thought there was some brilliant stuff being written
Yeah,
in there that
yeah,
should have or would have been looked at far more respectably if people had looked at the writing and hadn't thought, oh, it's comedy and been dismissive of it. I
yeah.
mean, I thought HarperCollins had a, you know,
Should we explain what orphonomy was for people who don't know? So it was HarperCollins basically put their slush pile online, didn't they? And so all of the authors could, it was like a forum where you could upload your manuscript and then all the other authors on there could review it and give you feedback. And through some kind of algorithm, they would make their way up to the top of the list. And then each month, I think 5 of them would end up on the editor's desk. And then you would get feedback from the editor. And towards the end of it, before Orphonomy, they closed it down. Every month, you could guarantee that somebody from our little comedy group would wind up on there. We were just starting to dominate, and then they closed it all down. But they
yeah.
didn't publish a single book in all those years that ended up on the editor's desk in that slush pile, from what I know.
Anything from the, I know they published a few, well, I know a lot of writers got a start from autonomy,
Yeah,
got picked up by other people.
yeah, they made connections there.
But the problem with the editor's desk, again, was people gaming it.
Yeah,
Which was why it was quite nice as we were suddenly all getting to the top because we didn't really game it because nobody really cared about us anyway.
no,
So we were just trying to pick up the odd review here and there, and all of a sudden getting to the top, and then we're closing autonomy down, which is just brilliant comedy. I thought,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I think a couple of us got reviews. Alistair got his reviews for.
I think Alistair did. I think maybe Rob Gregson. I don't know. I can't remember. It was long. It was
I
that.
never actually saw mine. I was told I was going to get one, but I never actually saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that was like I think that was 2011 or 12 that ended. It's like a decade ago.
No, it must have been like my first book came out.
Oh, was
I was
it?
still on and running.
Oh, okay.
I started putting on my second book on because I thought, well, it worked for my first book, I might as well try it for my second book.
Yeah.
And so it closed before, sort of, must be about 2016, 17, I think must be.
Was it that late?
I think
it might have been. I don't know, because we started that Goodreads thing, that group that really kind of died in the end, didn't we? Like Clog.
There's some you see people on the Clog now and again.
Is this still?
I think, but yeah, it's not very. I mean, that was the good thing about autonomy again, was the forums.
Yeah.
Where there was always often flame wars in some parts of the forums, but there was always good advice in our dark little corner.
Yeah.
Sweaty little corner over there where nobody else looked. There was, I had quite a few of you read my first drafts, and I wouldn't have got.
Yeah.
The very, very first draft of Round. It's awful.
I think I can't remember when I started. I remember reading early drafts of Roundhead. And I remember putting early drafts of The Accidental Scoundrel on there. But I don't remember. My second book was Tripping the Night Fantastic, and I published that in 2012. But I don't remember that being on Orphonomy, but it might have been.
I think it was.
Yeah, maybe it was. I've got a bad memory. I was drinking very heavily in those days. So I think it just reflects that in the book. Everybody in those first two books is drunk all the time.
That's one good thing that's come out of the pandemic for me, is I've pretty much given up alcohol.
Yeah, I've slowed down.
Whereas everybody else I know has suddenly gone and drinking phones. I went up to London and saw some friends last year, and everybody was drinking. I'm like, okay.
No, I used to very easily. I would, in the evening, open a laptop, start drinking a glass of wine, start writing, be too drunk after a couple of drinks to continue writing. But I would happily drink 2 bottles of wine a night, or a bottle of whiskey, or even 24 cans of beer. And I thought that was normal.
That's not normal.
I know it's not normal, but I grew up in a very weird household where drinking was encouraged when I was like 14. But since I met Rachel, who doesn't drink, you can't just be the only drunk person in a room with 2 people in it, with your partner. And so I've stopped drinking, but I forget that I've stopped drinking. And so I drank a bottle of wine about 3 weeks ago, and I was so pissed. It's been so long since I'd been drunk. I was completely shit-faced.
Yeah. I've got some 50th birthday parties coming this year for people, from friends from school and university. And it's like, oh my God, those are going to be, I'm going to have drinks at those. Oh my Lord, I'm going to be a mess. I'm going to have to watch myself. I might have to actually cut my hair. This is my pandemic haircut.
Is that excellent?
Yeah, well, I'm slowly getting and losing it as I get older, but I'm still quite proud.
Yeah. Oh. Again. So I had long hair down to my shoulders, and I cut it all off.
Yeah, I know. I used to mock you and call you Cat Weasel.
Yeah.
Now look at me. Yeah, that's karma.
Yeah, exactly. Should we talk about your writing process? As this is is this an author interview or just a chat, isn't it, I suppose?
It's a bit of both, isn't it? My writing generally comes out of the research, because I'm a historian and a history tutor, and I'm a qualified teacher.
Mm.
History is my bag anyway. So all of my stories come from the research one way or another. So I read a lot, and then I underwrite. I know lots of people seem to be able to write loads and loads and loads and loads and then cut it down.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that. It starts with a skeleton, and then
I do the same.
Everything else is added on, and it layers and layers and layers as I add on.
So I've got a friend who I was talking to on email today, and he's just sent his book off to a publisher. And about a month ago, the word count was 140,000 words, and he cut it down to 90,000. took a novella out of it, basically. But because he overwrites, I can't do that. I find it too hard to cut stuff out. I have to underwrite and then build it up.
Yeah, it works for me. I mean, I know other people who look at me and just like, how I couldn't do it like that. But I need to get the story down, then I fill out the characters and the vocals and everything else that's going. It's like laying down music, really. You know, drums and bass come down first, and then you layer everything else on top. So I sort of treat it like that process.
Yeah. You sort of sounds like you're sort of outlining, but is that what you're doing? Would you call it an outline, that first skeleton draft?
Yeah, because I start off with a mind map, and I always know what the ending is generally. And then from the mind map, that builds up from there. I don't plan exhaustively because generally it's history anyway, so I know what happened. Therefore, fitting my characters into what happened. I don't change history. I don't or break it.
Yeah.
My characters tend to be people who are on the fringes, observing events and saying what a bunch of idiots these generals, kings, princes, whoever, archbishops might be. So yeah, I'm sort of a mixture of a pantser and a planner. I think it's a loose plan that often changes, especially with a character like Blandford, who the more I write him, the more he sort of gets a life of his own and an attitude of his own, and sometimes he decides to go and do something completely off the spur of the moment, and that turns into some of the better scenes.
Because it feels like with that character, it seems like you have maybe an idea for a scene, and then you just put Blandings into it and just watch everything fall apart.
Yeah. Sometimes fall apart. Sometimes he does the right thing. He's quite moral in ways. But yeah, I mean,
he proves himself. He learns not to wear the silly hats and stuff.
Oh, he always wears the silly hats.
On occasion.
He loves his silly hats and his fashion, and I think he's a very vain, spoiled character.
Yeah. Was he quite inspired? Was he inspired by Flashman?
I think yes, in some ways, no, in others. Certainly, the idea of an old man writing his memoir.
Yeah,
I love George MacDonald Fraser, and so I've read the Flashman books voraciously. But he's very much the opposite of Flashman. Flashman is like the scoundrel, triumphant, looking back on his old days about how he got away with it all. And he did the bad things all the way down through his life, and he got away with it all. Blandford is a man at the end of his life who's going, I did the right thing. Every time I tried to do the right thing, and it always turned to shit. So
he's incredibly honest.
Yeah, and he's bitter about it. Well, so's Flashman, but he's honest because he's got away with it. Blandford's honest because he's like, well, everybody's been saying this crap about me. Well, this is the truth.
Yeah.
So it's I do like him as a character. I like my Charioteer characters. Instead of it being focused on one single individual, it's focused on three, and I quite enjoyed that.
Because it starts off with a race, doesn't it? And then does it end up on the Silk Road? I've read the first chapter on the back of the book, and that's all I've read so far.
So, well, it's based on Procopius's history of the first recorded international espionage.
Oh, right.
A bunch of Romans were sent off to a place called Serinda, which could be China, it could be India, to steal the secret of silk. And they got the silkworm eggs, packed it, or cocoons, and packed it into canes, brought them back to Constantinople, hatched them on mulberry bushes. Hey, presto, the Roman Byzantine silk industry is born. But Procopius just writes one paragraph, said, oh yeah, well, a couple of monks came along and we sent off a mission and they came back and we had silk. Interesting. So thanks, great. So it's based on that one paragraph, and then I turned it into the story.
Wow.
But again, all of the characters are real. So the charioteer himself is a guy called Calliope's Porphyries, who was the greatest charioteer of the ancient world, they reckon. And he would have been in about his 50s, 60s, but still knocking around, still racing. Yeah. And then he's left with a disgraced general and first documented flat earther who irritates everybody. No end.
Excellent. I love flat earthers. I love them.
This conception that everybody in the medieval world thought that the world was flat. They knew that the world was round. They didn't know about gravity, and the venerable Bede actually thought that the southern hemisphere was uninhabitable because people were just falling off. But they knew that the world was round. So there's this one medieval guy who wrote a book saying actually it's flat, and from that Washington Irving decided that everybody thought that the world was flat. But
That's interesting.
So this one priest is knocking around going, the world's flat, and everyone's going, no, it's not, that's stupid. And he's going, but it is flat, isn't it? Like, you can see it's flat. And they go, no, well, but no, he's going, yeah, it's flat, isn't it? Every time they point that out, someone show some evidence, then yeah, but it's still flat. I really enjoyed writing an irritating, is it an ideologue or someone who passionately believes in something like that? Even
as a part of your research, did you watch any flat earther documentaries?
I watched a couple of things on YouTube.
There's an excellent documentary.
My brain melted, I'll be honest with you. I was just like,
there's an excellent documentary on Netflix where they get enough money together to do these big experiments. They've been planning getting a gyroscope and finding a big enough lake so they could do this laser test. And they keep proving the Earth is a globe, and they won't accept it.
Yeah, it's not. Well, look, everybody's open. Everyone's entitled to their beliefs and opinions, but I'm also entitled to laugh at those beliefs and opinions if I find them ludicrous. So I'm sorry to anyone who does believe in the world being flat, but
if that turned out to be true by some insane miracle, that I'd be well happy. I think it would be great if the government had deceived us.
And traveling through space on a giant turtle with 4 elephants would be wonderful.
That'd be even better.
I live in Ankle quite happily. I joined the watch straight away.
Yeah, it would be great.
I ejected from the watch straight away, but I want to get in. He's one of my favourite writers.
My job, I'm a cleaner, right? It's not an exotic job, but I clean communal areas all around the south of England. I drive about 5 hours a day getting to places. One of the places is a bunch of roads in Wincanton that are named after streets in Ankh-Morpork. So you've got like Treacle Pie Road and like stuff like that. It's so cool.
I love the way on the anniversary of his death, the whole GNU thing goes all over the internet, and it's been written into the code of the internet. I think that's, I love metafiction. I think writing all of these little bombs for people to discover, Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Writing. It's just wonderful, and he was just so good. So brilliant at doing things like that.
Yeah, he's one of those writers that makes me feel envious when I'm reading.
Yeah, it's Mozart and Salieri, isn't it? And yes, he is. Douglas Adams is another one. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I was about 12 when I read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I didn't stop laughing. It was about the same time it was on telly with Sandra Dickinson, and I watched that avidly as well.
Yeah, I go through phases where I love listening to the audiobooks because he reads some of the audiobooks himself. So you're getting Douglas Adams tell you the story that he wrote with his great voice. And I've got to try and avoid reading Douglas Adams when I'm writing him and P.G. Wodehouse, because I start to adopt their mannerisms, and I'm trying to avoid but their voice is so strong in those books. Like I kind of become infected by it a little bit. And it starts to seep into my own writing. So
yeah, See, I do find that as well. I stopped reading as well. I also stopped reading Civil War fiction. I stopped reading medieval fiction when I started writing books in the medieval. You know, I didn't read any books set in the same period as what I was doing, simply because I didn't want to pick up anything, which is a bummer because there's lots of good Civil War and medieval books out there.
Yeah.
I can pick up now. Once I've got to a date, so the Blandford series is, you know, he's through the Civil War and into the king getting his head cut off and things like that now. So I can read any books about the Civil War. So I've been able to catch up. Mike Arnold's series, which I loved, you know, I've been able to read his Marston Moor book now because I've done Marston Moor. I'm not going to pick up on anything.
Yeah.
As a writer, you subconsciously pick up on that. And I steal enough from comedians as it is. But,
yeah. Have you just had a notification come up on your screen? I've just had one saying your meeting will end in 10 minutes.
Oh, our meeting will end in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Assume you only get so much time, but that's all right. That's plenty of time.
Can I just say, yeah. I do have my books. I do have some books on offer at the moment. My publisher has them on Amazon Kindle on 99p. So the Charioteer is currently on a 99p deal. I'm not sure how much longer of that we've got there. You've got Beckett, Rebel, which is my Thomas Beckett novella trilogy. That's the second one. That's on a 99p deal or a cheap deal. And you can actually pick up the Blandford Omnibus at the moment, which is the first 3 books of the Blandford Candy series, for only £1.99. So my royalties will be a pittance.
But you'll get those new readers.
I hope so. Loads of new readers will love it.
And those Blandings books are very funny. No, those the trilogy, were they novellas? Those ones?
No, they're all the Thomas Beckett ones were all, that was a trilogy of novellas.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
they're all full novellas. So I've written 4 of those at the moment, and it's left on a cliffhanger. I keep getting emails from people saying, "Well, are you going to finish?" He's just been arrested. What's going to happen next? And I've written 2 different books. I've written a Thomas Beckett book, The Charioteer, and I'm writing a book now that it's set in the same world as Blandford, and he does make a brief appearance. But again, it's not resolving an issue I've left dangling with him off in the Tower of London for the last 3 years. So the voice is in my head. He's not happy about it. He'd rather I wrote him out of the tower if possible. So when is Jack's game coming out? Not Jack's game. When is
The Mask Collector?
Mask Collector coming out?
That is out on the 31st of July.
31st of July. I think I've got a pre-order on my Kindle. So
yeah, I hope you don't like horror, do you? It's a bit gory. There's a bit of gore in there.
Yeah, I know. You are actually the only writer I've picked up a horror book for since my childhood. I'll be honest with you. I used to get those horror story books of about 12 short stories, horror books from the paperbacks by Puffin. And I'd read them as a kid, but then it started getting into things like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I don't like this. I'd much rather smile than.
I have a bad history with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you?
This is I think. Yeah, well, so I have this thing where when we're a meeting with a bunch of people and somebody scratches their plate with their fork, I have a genuine fight or flight response reaction to it, and I panic. Right, it's like a genuine. It's called Mr.
Oh, he does that on the blackboard, doesn't he? With his
well, so I watched Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 6 years old, and I was at a friend's house, and I didn't notice at the time because I was 6. But his mum was a drug addict. She was passed out on the landing upstairs, so we had the living room to ourselves, 2 6-year-old boys, and she had like a footstool, a puff in the middle of the lounge, and you open it and it's where she kept all of her horror VHS tapes. So we got one and we let's watch a horror film. We put in Nightmare on Elm Street. I had nightmares for 3 months straight. It terrified me.
I can believe it. Those. I mean, and that was the days of video nasties, I suppose, and before the moral panics. Chucky and all the rest of it. My friends all watched Chucky, and I was 12 12, 13, and now, and they're all watching Chappie. And I'm like, I don't want to watch Chappie. Can't we watch Morecambe and Wise on the other side? Because that's more my level. It's like, no, shut up, Jemahl.
Yeah. See, I've got a huge love for comedy and horror. So I've got both of them. I love them both equally. But...
You should. Do you watch any of the Mel Brooks, like Young Frankenstein and things like that?
Mel Brooks. Yeah. Spaceballs was one of my favorite movies. I had that on VHS, and I think I destroyed that cassette tape.
That's the one, the parody of Star Wars.
Yeah,
I do remember that one. Young Frankenstein was, I loved Young Frankenstein. Yeah. I mean, again, that's about as close to horror as you get. Carry On Screaming again. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, there's vampires, almost vampires in it. How long are we looking on? Our time is running down rapidly, isn't it?
Does it say where the time countdown is?
Yeah, right at the top. 4 minutes, is it?
Oh yeah, 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
Well, we should wrap it up. Well, I do notice you've got a nice little Fender Telecaster in the background there.
It's not a Fender. It's I sold all my good guitars.
But your lovely Epiphone Les Paul.
No, I've got the Les Paul still.
You shouldn't. That was a nice looking guitar.
This one, I went into the guitar shop to buy a new set of strings for my acoustic, and that was 55 quid. And I was like, oh, I'll just buy that instead. It's already got strings on it.
Yeah, that is lovely.
It's nice.
I do love a Telecaster. I'm a bit of a televangelist.
Yeah.
It's I've only gone electric. I've played acoustically for years, but I decided during my just before the pandemic, I was like, right, I've had enough of playing acoustic. I'm going to pick up plectrum and pick up the electric.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't done for 20 odd years. So it was.
Well, I've been playing it because my main instrument is the acoustic guitar as well. And because of that, I've never really mastered holding a plectrum. My fingers are so used to not having a plectrum when I'm playing the guitar. When I try and play the electric guitar, it just flips out of my fingers.
It is. I've got a friend, Paul, who plays exclusively electrics. And I've said, why don't you play the acoustic when we've been together? I can't play the acoustic. And he's a much better guitarist than I am. I'm like, well, I can't play the acoustic. There's no difference. But there is a dramatic difference. It's not learning a new instrument, but it's certainly learning a new way of playing.
You got used to playing with holding a piece of plastic. When you're so used to using all your fingers, and you just stop being able to do it.
I tend to play fingerstyle now on the electric anyway. It's because I'm lazy and I'm old and I don't learn.
I've decided to start learning the harmonica recently. I've got in the Bournemouth books that I'm writing, one of the characters, a homeless person, gives him a harmonica, and throughout the first 3 books, he slowly gets better at it, just as like a little side thing that occasionally he does. So I thought I'm going to learn the harmonica along with my fictional character.
Our time is going rapidly.
Oh yeah, okay.
This is I've enjoyed this.
I have as well. It's the first time we've actually spoken face to face, even though we've been heckling each other online for like 10 years.
10 years, definitely. But yeah, we should do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully it brings in lots and lots of viewers on AutoTube.
Yeah, no, my YouTubes regularly get 9 or 10 views, so expect those sales to go for the roof.
I love the Halloween series you did. I thought
nobody else did, and nobody else watched those.
No, those were good ones. Those were.
I thought it was fun making them, but genuinely nobody watched those. I did a Halloween advent calendar. Yeah. Nobody watched them.
More clickbaity titles. That's what you need, is more clickbaity titles.
Yeah, I know, I do. I'm not very good at that. I'll figure it out. I'll do a clickbaity title for this. Author dies online author dies during interview.
That's my comedy, folks.
Right, and cue death scene. So, okay, I'm going to plug your book, The Charioteer. I haven't read it, but I know it's good.
On Amazon and other retailers from Sharp Books and by me.
It's got a brilliant cover.
It has got a fantastic cover. I love that cover. I mean, I do love, they've done great covers for all of my books, so I can't complain, but I particularly like that. Right then.
It's been great talking to you. See you in 10 years.
See you in another 10 years. No, we should do it again. We should set it up again, see if we can get some other cloggers involved.
Yeah, I'll be well up for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, then. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much, Anne.
Right then. See you later. Bye.
Bye, man.